Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Rent Prep for Landlords. This is episode number 212, Steve.
Yeah, getting up there.
We got to work on that.
Getting up there.
Yeah, it's episode 212. Yeah, that's a number. It's a palindrome,
Yeah.
right? Same forward and backwards, like kayak.
Mm-hmm.
Or what's another palindrome? Bob. There's a really, you really reached your brain for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more.
Oddly enough, I was researching palindromes earlier today. I don't know why.
That's weird.
It's a very nerdy thing to research.
Yeah, right. So it's the same backwards as his frontwards, right?
Yeah, so there's sentences that are like that too. So like Nixon, like there was one where there was like a sentence with Nixon in it, and then you spell it backwards and it was the same. But you know what? I've had enough talk about palindromes. Today, we will be talking about a few in the news topics here.
Yeah.
The first one we're going to be discussing is rising sea levels and what that effect might be on real estate and investors.
Yes.
So we got some data to share with you guys on that one. We're going to be talking about how much real estate agents actually make. And we got some data from 2017 that it may be less than you thought.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And a new law coming down in North Carolina that's probably good for all landlords and real estate investors to be aware of, because it might be something that you get tripped up in your local courts.
Yeah.
So
sure.
we're talking about that. And we have, let me just say it, one of the craziest voicemails we've ever gotten on the landlord hotline. So definitely stay on till the end of this call. There will be a few bleeps.
I got a feeling it's what we expected in the beginning and never got in the beginning. And I was almost disappointed. Like, I wish.
Yeah.
I kind of
crazies.
I kind of figured they'd be crazier than this. And then I haven't heard this one yet. You're purposely been holding out so that I get to hear it for the first time live.
I purposely stopped it halfway through myself because I wanted some real genuine laughs towards the end of just like, I can't believe that guy said that.
All right.
I figure we can always edit it out if it gets too crazy.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's roll that sweet intro music.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Welcome to the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast. And now your hosts, Stephen White and Eric Worrell.
All right. Before we get started today, a quick word from our sponsor, Earth Class Mail. So at Earth Class Mail, what they do is they reduce the clutter and streamline your tasks by converting papers that you get in the mail into digital documents and integrating them with the platforms you already use. So your online tools help you identify checks and deposit them quickly and automatically, allowing you to focus on what matters most, running your business. So if your business is buried under piles of mail, checks, and invoices, check out Earth Class Mail. You can go to earthclassmail.com, and if you end up purchasing the service, you can use promo code RENTPREP, one word, RENTPREP, and that'll save you 10% off for the first 3 months or 8% off for the first 12, and that goes on top of the annual pricing. Mm-hmm. That's with an additional 10% that you get discount for doing the annual pricing. So that's in a total of 18% if you do the annual. So again, promo code RENTPREP.
Tell you what, I just had to send my accountant all kinds of documents and spent hours scanning them and making them digital. So this, another classic example of how this can be really, really beneficial to get stuff into a digital format.
Yeah. I hear everything's going digital these days.
Yeah, imagine
Is that what the young kids are saying?
I think it's leaning towards that.
Yeah.
I think technology is starting to get there.
I think people prefer stamps and to mail things to get that information 3 to 28 days later.
Right.
But that's enough of that. But yeah, check out Earth Class Mail.
Yeah.
They've been good to us. They'll be good to you. So give that a check. But we're going to move it on to our In the News segment.
Yeah.
So this first one, I feel like, Steve, you'll be interested in this because you're a nature-y kind of guy. You like nature. You like Mother Earth.
And I'm really into studying ancient civilizations right now, which this does have a connection to.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see how that has a connection. But
it does.
This comes from the Union of Concerned Scientists, Science for a Healthy Planet and Safer World. So in this report that came from the Union of Concerned Scientists, they're talking about the fact that rising seas, chronic floods, and the implications for U.S. coastal real estate. And this is in 2018. So you can get the full report if you want to check it out. We'll have this in our show notes. But I thought it would be interesting for our listeners because I'm sure a lot of people invest in a lot of different areas, and sometimes it might be attractive to have a vacation rental or something like that in a coastal town. Mm-hmm. So what they're saying is that the sea levels are rising, tides are inching higher, and high tide floods are becoming more frequent and reaching farther inland. And hundreds of U.S. coastal communities will soon face chronic disruptive flooding that directly affects people's homes, lives, and properties. Yet property values in most coastal real estate markets do not currently reflect this risk, and most homeowners, communities, investors are not aware of the financial losses they may soon face. So this analysis looks at what a risk for the U.S. coastal real estate from sea level rise and the challenges and choices we face now in the decades to come. So a real quick bullet point I want to share from this article, and again, you can check it out if you check out our show notes, is that more than 300,000 of today's coastal homes with a collective market value of about $117.5 billion today are at risk of chronic inundation in 2045, a time frame that falls within the lifespan of a 30-year mortgage issued today. Approximately 14,000 coastal commercial properties currently assessed at a value of roughly $18.5 billion are also at risk during that time frame.
So I kind of compare this to the people living in Hawaii that lived on the, they're dealing with the volcano right now.
Yeah.
So you move there knowing you're living on an active volcano.
Sure.
It's only a matter of time. You're rolling the dice and you're betting that that's not going to happen in your lifetime, that you're gonna outlive the next time that volcano erupts or the next natural disaster that forces, things to change or the landscape to change. And this is all part of a cycle, right? I mean, if you look back at, hundreds, thousands of years, coastlines change, continents become submerged, new continents emerge. We just all hope that doesn't happen within our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that is clearly science is proving that it's going to happen within our lifetime. And they're not only saying that, but within a 30-year mortgage lifespan. So I would heed the warning. This to me is, this is, the canary in the cave. I think this is a warning sign for people that are considering, especially real estate investors. Just take a look at where you're investing. If it's on a coastal area where, flooding is a continuous problem or looking to be a problem, or it's on any of these maps that are showing areas that are likely to be underwater in the next 30 years, that should go into your decision. I would think very heavily about that.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it's going to start affecting the home values. And that's going to create a real serious problem for these 300,000 homes that are now going to be identified as like a high risk home, and the value is most likely going to drop on them.
Yeah, it's interesting. The one bullet point here is discussing the fact that Florida has the most homes at risk, which I think most people listening would know that right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
With about 1 million homes, more than 10% of the state's current residential properties. New Jersey with 250,000 homes, and New York with 143,000 homes are second and third on the list. Another thing that's interesting too to think about is the fact that if these homes do get ruined from rising tides, is that the properties at risk by 2045 currently house 550,000 people and contribute nearly $1.5 billion towards today's property tax base. So taxation, I mean, that's a lot of expensive housing that's going to get ruined.
Yeah.
I know when I went to Charleston, which was kind of interesting, I did one of those like horse-drawn carriage kind of like tours or whatever, and it's a tour guide kind of telling you guys about what's happening. I went with my in-laws and my whole family there, and they actually would take you down these streets and they would say, hey, look at those front steps. You see those front steps that we just went by? See those cracks in the front steps? That was a warship that hit those front steps. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But what they said is they actually changed the coastline in South Carolina to make it like we were like probably 5 blocks in from the coast.
Wow.
But I don't know if they hauled in dirt or whatever, but they changed the entire coastline. But now it's, this article is saying that the coastline is going to be starting to shrink.
Yeah.
So if you have property there, maybe you consider selling. Read this article. If you've thought about investing, maybe in a vacation home where you can get high rents, if you're doing short-term rentals and it's in a coastal property, maybe reconsider. So
buy up all the properties I can in South Dakota for all those 500,000 people that are going to be displaced just out of New York alone.
Yeah, I think you missed the oil boom there, though, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I was actually just talking to somebody recently. It was this lady I was talking to, and she said her son moved out there when he was like fresh out of high school and was making like 6 figures.
Oh, working on oil rigs and stuff like that?
Yeah, but it all kind of dried up and got some girl pregnant, and now he's stuck there.
Yeah. I feel like that's a pretty common story, though, that you usually hear.
Yeah, moved in for the oil, stayed for the lady.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this next article comes from TheStreet.com, courtesy of Scott Van Voorhees. Hopefully I'm saying your last name correct, Scott. But this article is talking about how much do real estate agents make. Mm-hmm. And, this is something that a lot of people have some frame of reference for, but I thought it'd be interesting to cover because it's got statistics from 2017. So the median income for real estate sales agents was just under $46,000 in 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, what would you have thought?
I have some experience as a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Not much. Fresh out of the Marine Corps.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, looking for a job, looking to do something. I thought I want to get into real estate. Got sponsored by Realty USA. I'm not even sure they're around anymore.
No.
But somebody's got to sponsor you to go get your certification. At least in New York, they do. And so I go and I get my real estate agent certification, and I go to start. And I remember, I swear to you, they didn't tell me any of this ahead of time. But I go to start on my first day. Show up to the office. They explain to me how things work. They wanted me to write out a list of my 100 closest people I know and family members, obviously, because I'm going to hit them up first. But then came all the money that I was going to have to fork out myself. And I guess I just didn't think of it at the time. Like I was assuming it's like a job.
Well, how old were you too?
Pretty young.
24,
Yeah,
25?
early 22, probably 23. Okay. But yeah. So, I never considered that it was more like a business.
That you guys don't have my best interests at heart?
Right. What do you mean I got to pay
what is this?
$200 for business cards? I thought you guys would just make business cards and give them to me to hand out to people. No, not the case.
This article actually kind of talks about something similar to that too.
Yeah. So it's tough. It's hard, and you got to be in a good area. There's a lot of factors that go into if you're going to make a good amount.
I thought this number was pretty interesting. So it was talking about the top 10% and what they earn. I mean, if I had heard that, so you're thinking real estate agents, and you always see the signings that are all around town, and you go, oh, that person's probably killing it. They're in a real expensive neighborhood. They're always selling over there. Top 10% earned more than $109,490. I would have thought that number would have been a little bit higher.
Yeah, for 10%.
Yeah, but I do think some of this gets skewed because I have heard from friends that are in this space that there's a lot of people that get into real estate thinking like, oh, it could be a part-time income. I'll do this. They go like quarter of the way through it. They maybe sell one property or never sell anything. So I wonder if those people are bringing down the averages a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to get some pushback on this from real estate agents that listen to the podcast saying that number's not good or that data's not good.
Of course, it matters too where you are.
Yeah, for sure.
So the real estate commission. So most agents selling homes or leasing apartments work on commission. Basically, if you don't sell, you don't get paid. So I think we all know that. A not uncommon commission is 6%. If you live in a pricey real estate market like Boston or San Francisco, maybe you're salivating at the idea of earning $60,000 off a $1 million sale. But it doesn't really work that way. So the article kind of continues on. It says that if another agent is involved, you split the commission. So that's 3%. So we got the buyers and sellers. They're both getting 3%.
Yep.
So that'd be $30,000 each. Yep. However, before you see a dime, the $30,000 will go to the brokerage firm you work for. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them do a 50-50 split. It was what it's called. So with that 50-50, suddenly that 6% commission that you could potentially earn is down to 1.5%.
Right.
And now we're talking about $1 million property. So they're saying you're down to $15,000 on $1 million property.
Right.
So it doesn't end there, though. Many firms also levy a desk fee or marketing fee on agents that could bring your fee down to $14,100. But that doesn't probably cover your complete marketing costs, which you're on your own for, and could easily chew up another $2,000 to $3,000. I don't know about that. I guess maybe if it's a really expensive property you're selling.
Yeah, you know what was expensive? I remember thinking the signage, the signs that you put out in front. They had a preferred vendor or whatever that we go through to create or make the signs, and those were pretty expensive. There was a lot of upfront cost to do it. So I would imagine, your marketing, if you're footing the bill on that, it's not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
Think about how much a bench ad costs at a bus stop.
Yeah.
It can't be cheap.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're probably not going to make it very long if you're buying bench ads.
Yeah, maybe.
You're not really big time.
Right.
If you're just starting out, I wouldn't suggest starting with the bench ad.
Yeah, maybe not.
But I know I watched something on Freakonomics before. If you're not familiar, they got a great podcast, and they wrote Freakonomics was a book that was really popular maybe 10 years ago. And there's a video that you can find. Search Freakonomics, and we'll put it in the show notes, real estate agents. Mm-hmm. And basically what they did is they broke down how much does a real estate agent really care if you get that additional $1,000 on the sale of your property. So they kind of said, it's a calculation, and it was breaking it down like this. And they're saying they're getting 1.5%. So on $100, let's say, if you're going to get $100 as the owner, right? I'm just doing this for easy math. You're going to see $94 of that, right? Mm-hmm. Before taxes and all that. But if you're the selling agent and you're just getting the 1.5% that they mentioned, you're getting $1.50 on $100.
Yeah.
So on $1,000, you go up, times $1.50 by 10, $15. So with the video that I watched, what they were really arguing is that even if it's $2,000, you're talking about $30. $4,000, you're talking about $60.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to the end negotiating, it's really important to have a real estate agent who just truly wants to serve their clients well, because if it's an additional $4,000, they might be looking at $50. Like,
Right.
they're not going to hold up a sale and push it for another month just to make another $50.
Right.
So find a good real estate agent. That's the key takeaway.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. This last story, I think applies to everybody, but it is a local story to North Carolina. So this comes from the newsobserver.com, which I believe is a local paper in that area. And it comes from Dan Kane. And it says that the landlords versus tenants in eviction fee battle. Here's whose side lawmakers are on. So in March, a state superior court judge ruled that an apartment owner wasn't entitled to collect $191 in such eviction fees from a Raleigh tenant who paid the back rent and fees and wasn't evicted from the apartment.
Wait a minute. Are you saying Raleigh?
Raleigh.
Raleigh. Okay. All right.
You know what?
I
My
heard-
wife's name is Lee, and I see that name in there. So really, I want to say Raleigh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
In Raleigh,
Raleigh, North Carolina.
whatever,
Yeah.
Steve.
All right.
All right. But there's a really good story at the beginning that kind of gives better context. So it's talking about Katrina Wallace, who was evicted or was attempted to be evicted from her apartment. And she had some medical issues, and she communicated her situation extensively to the apartment's office, yet was turned down when she presented them with social service vouchers and a check with the last of her savings because it wasn't the full amount up front, which is, standard.
Yeah.
The complex began processing her eviction and charged her another fee of $201 to cover eviction court costs. Once all of her funds arrived and the fees were paid, she was able to remain in her apartment but sought legal counsel when she was denied a receipt for the court fee and never had to appear in court. So basically, they kept the money for the eviction court costs, but they never went to court.
Right.
So North Carolina lawmakers are now saying you can't do that.
Here's my problem with this. So at the end of the day, strip away the fact that this was medical related, strip away the fact that she tried to pay and didn't have enough money. Strip away that. Let's just get down to the basics. Tenant doesn't have enough money to pay the rent. Landlord evicts the tenant. Landlord has to pay court costs to evict such tenant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tenant should be responsible to pay those court costs regardless of the outcome because that filing was necessary. It's the same reason that filing will now be on Katrina Wallace's background check for the next 7 years. That is a legitimate filing that was filed in court. At the time, it was a legal and necessary filing. She may have paid before the time was up or before the time expired.
So this was something I wasn't aware of until I started working here. Can you explain that? So there are different types of reports. So there's somebody who actually has an eviction that's processed and somebody who has an eviction filing.
Yeah, usually if you see an eviction with a $0 amount next to it, that's that initial filing for the forcible entry and detainer. So at that point, the landlords don't know what the final dollar amount is going to be. They have to get in there and assess damages. They don't know how long it's going to take or how many rent cycles are going to pass before that person is actually gone. So usually the initial filing is for $0. The follow-up filing is after they've left and now they've calculated the past due rent plus any damages done to the property.
Mm.
So for us doing, all these background checks day in, day out, we start to recognize this and see it as those $0 filings are those initial filings. And they don't always.
So Katrina that we were just talking about, she never went to court.
Right.
She paid up on her debts.
Yes.
But if you run a background check, at least through Rent Prep, you will see that $0 filing.
Yes. Right. Because we believe that there is some value in knowing that there had to be a court filing and it is absolutely lawful to report that because that is a legitimate court filing. The only way for that court filing to go away would be to vacate the judgment, and the landlord would have to do that. Sometimes they do. Sometimes I see that where they'll vacate that judgment, but more often than not, they're not going to vacate that judgment. So that's going to stay on their record.
Yeah. And you definitely do see a pattern because we've been, doing these in the news segments, and it's if there's 1,000 cases, they're going to pick out the one where it's your heartstrings are really getting pulled.
That's why I said take away the personal stuff because I get it.
Because for every one of these, there is another one where it's somebody who spit in the landlord's face and then left, and then they want their $201 back because fill in the blank. So
I think. Yeah, and how many people are, they can't pay their rent because of meth addiction or because they just got fired from their third job this year, or whatever the reason it might be.
Steve, I don't want to beat this article to death.
Yeah.
And I feel like you kind of segued our next.
Into meth?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So our landlord hotline, we mentioned it earlier on the beginning of the episode. This one's a doozy.
Oh, and it has to do with meth. It's already a winner.
Oh yeah. So
right.
you guys can call in, and you know what? If you're crazy and you're listening to this, definitely call in because this was so entertaining to listen to. The landlord hotline at 716-218-0363. You can ask questions. You can just vent. You can do whatever you want. It's just a recorded voicemail. It goes right to voicemail. When you call, you won't talk to anybody. It'll just go right to the voicemail. So you can just, leave your whine, whatever you want to do.
Oh, let's hear this.
All right. Let me jack up the volume here. All right. This is a minute 30 that you wish your entire life was like.
All right. They've left a horrible fucking mess. This was a meth. People that use meth inside my dad's home. Now, would you like to say some words? Damn. It goes on the internet. Well, I'll try to let Dad say it, but he's pissed, so he's drinking beer. We've cleaned out this rental house, starting to clean out. I'm the next meth user, so I'm a recovering meth user. And we go inside this house to clean it up. It was really nasty and disgusting. You can see the walls, the paint, everything just nastified. Disgusting. Just lots and lots of money down the drain. People didn't pay 9 months of rent or deposit. We're trying to be nice to them. How much? 10 months. Now, would you like to say anything?
I said 10 months. $3,500.
That's my dad's rental.
Idiot.
Anything else?
Had a job. You didn't have
So, they said they had a job. Did nothing.
You ain't using me no more.
So, anyways, they use and abuse the rental property, and Dad's very upset. Dad, what's all wrong with the rental property?
All kinds of
I'm not laughing at landlord problems. I'm not laughing at the landlord has to deal with this. That's not what I'm laughing at. I'm laughing at a couple of really just classic lines out of there. My dad's upset, so he's drinking beer right now. And then the dad yelling profanities at the end there. A couple of things that I could take out of here. Did he say that he's a meth user?
He was.
Okay.
Recovered.
Okay. And then did I also catch that they let the rent slide for 10 months?
Yeah. No security deposit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, not to point fingers
I don't
here.
want to get into the, Stephen Covey's, model of like influence and, taking control of your life. Because that might be a little bit too much. But
right.
It seems like they didn't really take a lot of control of the situation right off the get-go, though.
I'm going to say something I've said many, many times in this podcast. Many landlords
Stop doing meth.
Stop doing meth. Yeah. And many landlords create their own nightmares. This is a classic case. I don't care what the situation is, if you have gone 10 months without either evicting that person or collecting a dime worth of rent, you as the landlord need to take some responsibility there. It's
the same feeling I have when somebody's like, oh, he or she has cheated on me 3-4 times, but it's different this time. I'd be like,
is it really?
Is it? Once maybe.
Yeah.
Work through your problems. 1 month late on rent, work through it. 9 months. Like, I don't know if I feel really bad about you if this person cheats on you.
Yeah. Like I said, we're pro landlords here. Make no mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But
we're rent prep for landlords.
Yeah. But like I said, landlords create their own problems, their own nightmares. There's a lot of things that you can gather out of this minute and 30 that I can start pointing fingers and saying, yeah, maybe your meth using tenant was a problem. Sure. But your problem was probably made far worse than what it needed to be.
You're kind up front. You didn't collect a security deposit. You probably didn't run a background check.
Right.
I just imagining what the rental looks like. Is it a desirable rental? Is it, you're attracting a lot of bad tenants. There's a lot to unpack there, but we'll let it go. We won't harp too much. I appreciate the voicemail. It was entertaining, if nothing less.
Absolutely. And I don't want to laugh at anyone's misfortune, but in some ways, that's kind of what I picture in my mind of how some landlords are dealing with nightmares.
If you listen to this and you think, man, that guy sounded like me, please call the landlord hotline, 716-218-0363.
Yeah. And if your dad's angry and because of that anger is drinking beer now and wants to talk about landlording, absolutely call in.
Yes, please
for
do.
sure. Yeah.
And I wanted to give a quick shout out too. I had a really good interview with Sean Johnson, who's a property manager out in New Mexico.
Not Sean Johnson, the Olympic athlete.
No.
Okay.
No. This is a property manager. Him and his wife, Kristen, they own a property management company out in New Mexico. And if you guys go on our Facebook page, rentprep.com, you can find that interview. And I shared it to the Rent Prep for Landlords Facebook group. And you know what? He brought up a good point. He said he was on our site checking out the pricing and whatnot. If you're a property manager who's been on our site and looked at it and thought, it's a little bit, maybe that's not the right service for me, you should know that we do have volume pricing. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you're a property manager, you got 100 units or more, we can work with you on volume pricing. Feel free to reach out to us at rentprep.com. Heck, you can just send Rich at rentprep.com an email. He'll be tickled pink to hear from you.
Yeah. Definitely send Rich at rentprep.com an email for sure.
Yeah. We'll record his reaction. He'll be all excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while and you're thinking about maybe, you're just not happy with the services you're using for your background checks, we do offer volume pricing for people that, and maybe if you have 50 units, but you're growing, still reach out, send Rich an email. It'll be funny for us.
If you're dealing with a meth user in your property, email Rich at rentprep.com just to let him know and how it's going. And maybe if you have pictures or
if
audio.
you're having issues with your relationship.
Yeah.
And you're looking for relationship advice.
Yeah. If you just got cheated on that third time, email Rich at rentprep.com and just let him know what you're going through.
If you have a stash of Chinese fortune cookie messages that you've been keeping since you're 13 years old and you find them very informative and fun to share with other people, what should you do, Steve?
Email Rich at rentprep.com. Let him know which are your favorite fortune cookies and just let it all out.
Yeah.
Let Rich know what you're going through.
Yeah, Rich is your hotline. He is your outlet. You're welcome, Rich.
Yeah. Yeah, so another great episode. And keep the voice messages coming in. Whatever you guys are dealing with, we love hearing them, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's great for the podcast listeners to get a glimpse,
I can say
too.
without a doubt, this is the best one we ever had.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Usually when meth's involved, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
In terms of just ridiculousness. I mean,
you know what?
We've seen it here enough times, just in mugshot photos and things like that.
I'll try too if you're interested. We had a really good graphic that was made that shows where meth users are most highly what's the word? Concentrated.
Yeah.
So if you are in the Midwest, obviously that's the biggest hotbed. But I'll see if I can find that map and add it to the show notes where you can see the meth concentration in the United States.
Yeah, and you might want to take a look at.
Stay away from the coastline. Stay away from the meth. You're
not safe anywhere.
Yeah,
you're not safe on the coast. You're not safe in the Midwest.
There's one town in Idaho that is not going to flood or have meth issues. So
that's the one.
Start buying it up there.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Until next week, we look forward to episode number 213 of the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast.
Thanks, guys.